The talk of Sioux Falls, 1140 KSOO.
And it is 4:44 here on the Patrick Lalley Show on 1140 KSOO. Remember, if you're not near your radio, you can listen live on KSOO.com or with your Radio Pup app. And you really should follow us on Facebook at 1140 KSOO and the P. Lalley Show on the big Twitter machine out there. You want all the live tweeting from Dan, and you need multiple sources of your information from KSOO, and that's how you do it. We're going to talk just a little bit more with Amy Elliot. She is a senior researcher, senior director of the Center for Health Outcomes and Population Research at Sanford Research. It's a great title, Amy.
It's a long one.
How do you end up with a title like that? Where did you come from?
I am from Sioux Falls and was able to move back home. Yep, my maiden name's Vanderwoody.
Vanderwoody.
Yep.
Yeah,
good old Dutch name.
Yep, I can hear that there, and a little Northwest Iowa influence or what have you. Where'd you go to school?
So I graduated from high school at Lincoln High School. Shout out to the Patriots out there.
Mm-hmm.
Graduated in '89, and so yeah, people can calculate my age now.
No, don't do that.
That's all right.
You're younger than I am.
Life just gets better.
Yeah, exactly.
And then went off to school and graduated with my undergraduate from University of Minnesota in Moorhead.
Oh, cool.
Mm-hmm.
So you've traveled around a little bit. You went on and got a PhD in
Yep.
clinical psychology.
That's right.
And you end up working with biospecimens. What's the connection there? I don't. This seems like it says bio, so I think biology. I'm that simplistic. What's the connection there between psychology and what you're doing now?
So how I was trained, that's actually it's a really good question because a lot of times people think of clinical psychologists as lay down on the couch and tell me about your problems. And,
right. And we'll be doing that later.
Exactly.
Okay, good.
I think that might be helpful for you.
I know that's true.
But the type of psychology that I do is really focused on early childhood development and has a really strong scientific focus.
Mm-hmm.
And so I learned very early on incorporating psychology with physiology and biology. And then when I did a fellowship in genetics and behavioral pediatrics down at Nebraska at the University of Nebraska Med Center, which was a real combination of training between the medical residents as well as the PhD clinical psych. So I've always kind of walked in between a few different worlds. And so it's...
That just happens to be what your degree is in.
Exactly.
Right? That's how it works. So you end up back... How did you end up coming back to Sioux Falls, though?
Well, when as you know, research has just been exploding in the Sioux Falls area,
Mm-hmm.
and Sanford has been, with the $400 million gift that was given 10 years ago, it has created a lot of opportunities that, frankly, I never thought I'd be able to move back home.
Right.
And when we started looking was around the time when a lot of that development was getting started, and the opportunities were available right here in our hometown, and I live 3 blocks away from my parents now. And
Oh, that's wild.
yeah, we never thought we'd be able to be able to come back home, but a lot of opportunity now.
It's good to be close to your parents.
It's very good.
Is it good all the time to be close to your parents?
It's good all the time.
That would be concerning to me. Well, now, one of the fascinating things, and I mentioned it just earlier when we were talking, is the way you, through some of this research, not necessarily what you're doing directly, but teeth. That's a biospecimen, right?
It is.
So children's teeth are a window into their how they were developed and the influences on them. You have to explain that to me. It's amazing.
It really is. And it I think, is a sign of the type of technology and science that ECHO will be able to bring to this part of the country. And so when you think about teeth, they start to bud very early in pregnancy and gestation,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And it really serves as almost like a tree ring, okay, where you can look at different periods of growth. And there's a way to use lasers to be able to analyze teeth. And about a month ago, and these are in children's teeth that they naturally lose when you're about 5, 6, 7 years
Right.
old.
You're not pulling teeth out of
Not
kids?
pulling teeth
Good.
out. But the tooth fairy might know what they're doing a little bit here.
The tooth fairy was a researcher, as it turns out.
It turns out. But it was an article published about a month ago that found, by looking at kids' teeth, that kids that later went on to develop autism had been exposed to high levels of lead right around the time of delivery, before pregnancy, or before delivery and then right after. And so they could even isolate the time period, as well as found there were some essential nutrients like zinc that the child was lacking in their diet at that point in time. And so it's amazing the types of questions that something that normally would go to the tooth fairy,
right,
can help answer for science.
And as they say, correlation is not causation all the time.
Right.
You don't know if it was the lead or the lack of zinc or whatever it is, but it leads you to a question.
Exactly. All we know right now is there's a difference between the groups.
Yeah.
And so then how that is. And sometimes, researchers then will take that back and answer it with different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And even we'll go back to different animal models and test how things work. But it helps inform science and hopefully will help us be able to, again, to identify problems early or risk early so that you can help mitigate that risk.
So you, as you said earlier, you have volunteers that are part of your study, your research. How many people do you have? How many people do you need? And how do you get involved?
Yeah, no, good question. So we'll be recruiting into ECHO in Sioux Falls and in Rapid City. And we're starting with folks that were part of a large study that we did previously called the SACE Passage Study and are currently updating their contact information. We've got about 500 folks that have been involved so far, and hoping to bring that number closer to about 2,000.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then we're also going to start recruiting women from different prenatal clinics during their pregnancy to start a new pregnancy infant cohort as well.
Oh, wow. So what's the benefit for volunteering? It's got to be hard to find people who want to say, yeah, here's some biospecimens. Here, take my biospecimens, please.
It's interesting because so many people participate because I think they feel driven by the mission and that they're helping answer important questions as a whole. But we also pay for people's time, and there's incentives and also put some fun little things in it for kids, and parents also learn a lot about their child by being involved.
I bet you run into a lot of ethical issues as well, dealing with people's DNA and all that kind of different stuff.
Exactly. And there's a lot of rules around confidentiality and how it can be handled and things we can do with that. We have regulatory boards that very closely monitor that. And with any research project, every part is somewhat, people can always say no. Maybe they want to participate in the study, but they don't want to donate a fingernail.
Right.
For example, well, it's not a whole fingernail, by the way. It's
just
a
a
clip.
piece.
Yeah. But let's say they don't want to do that. That's okay.
Yeah,
it's okay to say you don't want to participate in a certain part.
Amy Elliot, she is with Sanford Research, and she's involved with a grant that is looking at the correlation between environmental factors and children's health. And she's running this, looking for some people who want to volunteer to be part of it. You just went through that. So can they just go to a website, or how do they get a hold of you if they're interested?
Yeah. So if you call Sanford Research, they'll help get you to me. We're in the process of getting our website up and running. And also we've got a Facebook link as well that folks can follow to get information on what we're doing.
Outstanding. And we'll get Uber producer Dan Peters to throw those links up for you. People can get their phone number. So if you're interested in that, just get a hold of Amy Elliot at Sanford Research. When we come back, we're going to talk just a little bit about how this thing ended up here, which is very interesting. This is the Patrick Lalley Show on 1140 KSOO. And it's 4:55 here on the Talk of Sioux Falls, 1140 KSOO, and just a few minutes left here with Amy Elliot from Sanford Research, and she's working on a big study that correlates environmental factors and children's health. We just went through the whole thing about how teeth are like tree rings. That was amazing. What's kind of fascinating to me too is this is this grant that you're working under, National Institute for Health, and all these layers. It's all across the country. How does it end up at Sanford as well?
Good question. In fact, a lot of the grantees, when you look at a map, are a lot along the coast. And then there's a dot right, in South Dakota, and that's us.
Yeah.
And grants like this and being part of these national initiatives, we've started to get more competitive in the last few years because of the great research that's starting to grow and be done around here. And so how you end up getting this is there was a call for applications, and we put blood, sweat, and tears into a grant application. It was about 350 pages long.
Whoa, that's a grant.
It was a grant. And, then it gets peer reviewed. People tear it apart. And then you're hoping yours rises to the top and gets selected. And we were very fortunate.
Are there benefits to not being on the coast in terms, when you talk about having a diversity of population and different things of this nature, there probably are some advantages for you being here and not there.
Exactly. When I first came back to South Dakota, I had been told I was limiting my career. And it turned out that was exactly 100% wrong. I got some advice early on, bloom where you're planted. And there are a lot of things that make us unique. For example, there's a lot of nice people around here, and it's pretty easy to do research when you're dealing with nice people that want to help each other.
Can I have a piece of your fingernail? Oh, sure.
You're just stuck on these biospecimens.
Take whatever you need. It just makes it more pleasurable for you to be working in a place that you're comfortable in, right?
Exactly, and it's home. I mean, it really was coming home, and so then having the incredible growth in science and research here, you kind of get the best of both worlds.
You also run into, you're the second researcher we've had on the show that is a South Dakota native. There's more than, we have this, I think sometimes I think about Sanford Research as this huge organization that was built by bringing in people from all over, and that does happen. There are a lot of folks from all over the place, but there's a lot of just regional people who have taken the opportunity to come home just like you. Exactly. That's been kind of a strange, an unforeseen consequence of that. Maybe somebody saw it, but I sure didn't, so it shows you what I know. We talked a little bit about how to get involved in this project, and I think we're just now confirmed that we're putting that information up on our social media channels. That's P. Lalley Show, and also 1140 KSOO on Facebook. So if you want any more information on it, you can go get those links, phone numbers, Twitter addresses, all of that to get a hold of Amy Elliot, who is Senior Director for the Center of Health Outcomes and Population Research at Sanford. Great title, I said that earlier. So what's next for you? Where do you go? What's in this process? You're getting all this organized. You had this big announcement. I mean, what do you have to do tomorrow or Monday morning? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Well, tomorrow I'm going to the lake after hearing that weather forecast. But, we're working hard on designing some of these different protocols, how we're going to answer these questions, both at a national level as well as on a local level. We can tailor the questions we're asking to help meet some kind of local needs as well as things that we think are specific to hear. And so, for example, we're doing a lot of things with sleep, as well as looking at different environmental effects. So,
and we didn't even get to the whole sleeping part of that, which is fascinating as well. Well, you'll have to come back.
I'll have to come back.
Amy Elliot, she's with Sanford Research, working on the relationship between environmental factors and populations and children's health. Coming up Monday, Ryan Straddle, he's the South Dakota One Book author, Great Kitchens of the Midwest. This is the Patrick Lalley Show on 1140 KSOO.
Here's your chance to